Hi, it's Katrina. Number 10. Truk Lagoon. During World War II, the Japanese built military bases all across the Western Pacific. Wherever there was a piece of land they could build on, the Japanese military was eagerly establishing some kind of base. At Truk Lagoon, there were over 5 airfields supporting an estimated 500 aircraft. There were patrol boats, tugboats, submarines, gunboats, minesweepers, and many other vessels, all stationed at Truk Lagoon to guard its facilities. The whole place was protected by an army and natural fortifications like the Barrier Reef, the High Islands, and the lagoon itself. Truk Lagoon was one of the most formidable strongholds the Japanese ever built in the Pacific, and this was why the Americans wanted to destroy it so badly. In early 1944, the U.S. sent an armada of their top carriers and battleships to topple the Japanese stronghold. Between February 16th and 18th, Operation Hailstone was carried out. The Japanese were caught off guard, and the U.S. obliterated the fortress at Truk Lagoon. Over 70 ships sank, more than 400 aircraft were obliterated, and destruction was everywhere. The entire area is now an underwater graveyard, with the Japanese fleet submerged at the bottom of the ocean. No other place on Earth has so many sunken war machines from World War II, and yet these machines of war have been turned into homes for aquatic life. Now, these machines of war have become homes for marine life. Fish, corals, and all kinds of creatures now live inside the ghostly wreckage of hundreds of sunken Japanese planes and boats. If you like diving, this is where you need to be. Diving in Truk Lagoon is an adventure you will never forget. Number 9. The Niger Crater. Scientists have discovered a massive undersea crater made 66 million years ago. The undersea crater was made when an asteroid from outer space smashed into the surface of the planet at the same time the dinosaurs went extinct. But this wasn't the famous asteroid that doomed the dinosaurs. It was another one that hit the planet at almost the exact same time, punching a hole in the Earth 248 miles from the coast of West Africa. It's been named the Niger Crater, and scientists are still trying to figure out how it contributed to the demise of the dinosaurs. The crater was discovered completely by accident by Usdene Nicholson with the Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh. He was reviewing seismic data for an unrelated project when he uncovered the crater 1,200 feet beneath the sediment at the bottom of the ocean. It hasn't been 100% confirmed as an asteroid impact crater yet, but it does have all the hallmarks you would expect. Scientists still need to drill into the crater and test the minerals to see if it was created by an impact. However, scientists all over the world are fairly certain it was made by an asteroid over 1,300 feet wide. The asteroid was about the size of a city, but smaller than the one that hit Mexico and resulted in the extinction of the dinosaurs. However, the asteroid that made the Niger Crater would have also played a role in the destruction of life across the Atlantic Ocean. It would have created an earthquake of at least magnitude 7, with an explosion so intense it would have been heard across the entire globe. It also would have created a tsunami wave estimated at 3,200 feet high, wiping out huge amounts of life when it reached South America. Number 8. The Immortal Meadow. Scientists have just discovered the world's biggest natural clone. It was found off the coast of Australia. Underneath the water is a seagrass meadow covering over 77 square miles. Scientists have dubbed it the Immortal Meadow of seagrass because the meadow is technically just a single plant. The thing is that the plant has been cloning itself continuously for the past 4,500 years. The discovery was made by scientists while studying the diversity of seagrasses off the coast of Western Australia. They found that the Poseidon's ribbonweed in the region is genetically identical. Unlike other seagrasses which reproduce sexually, Poseidon's ribbonweed reproduces by cloning itself through its underground branch network. The Immortal Meadow is a gigantic clone stretching about 112 miles from one end to the other. Senior researcher Elizabeth Sinclair from the University of Western Australia says it's a single plant. She also says it has been growing uninterrupted and undisturbed for thousands of years, making it practically immortal. She even said that under the right conditions, the clone can continue to reproduce exact versions of itself endlessly. But how exactly does a plant clone itself? The process is called horizontal rhizome extension. The plant creates a genetically identical clone using an underground stem directly from its own root. Imagine a blade of grass creating a genetically identical blade of grass using its underground root system. That's what's happening here, only the clones cover a vast underwater area. And now for number 7. But first, it's shout-out time! I wanted to say a big thank you to Amanda Fahey and Lo Bearden for supporting this channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos about amazing discoveries. Number 7. Qing Dynasty Shipwreck. One of the largest and most perfectly preserved wooden shipwrecks ever found in China was recently salvaged from its watery graveyard. The ship, named the Yangtze No. 2 Ancient Shipwreck, was used during the Qing Dynasty between 1862 and 1875. That was when the dynasty was ruled by Emperor Tongji. Researchers are hoping that by salvaging the ship and studying its waterlogged remains, they will be able to better understand China's naval technology from almost 200 years ago. The ship itself was discovered in 2015 during an underwater survey. Its history isn't entirely clear, meaning we don't know what the ship was used for or why it sank. It was likely part of the maritime Silk Road, a merchant vessel bringing goods to and from Shanghai. The salvaged remains were recently transferred to the shipyard in Yangpu district, where they will be kept for the foreseeable future. Protective facilities are planned to be installed around the boat so that archaeologists can study it inside a secure laboratory. Archaeologists will study the structure of the vessel, recover any artifacts they can, and then hopefully turn it into a museum. We already know the boat had 31 cargo chambers for transporting goods, and researchers have also found scraps of purple clay objects and pots made in Vietnam. Number 6. Sunken civilization. Lake Constance is a glacial lake which sits between Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. Archaeologists are currently trying to understand a recent discovery of ancient rock piles which stretch for miles underneath its shimmering waters. These piles of rocks were likely left behind by humans who lived in the lake before it was filled with water 5,500 years ago. They were uncovered in 2015 by the Institute for Lake Research, but scientists are still stumped by their existence. There are about 170 rock formations in Lake Constance, several hundred feet beneath the surface. The piles vary in size, with some over 24 feet wide and 6 feet tall. Because their original shapes can no longer be recognized, it's unclear how big they were to begin with. All scientists know for sure is that they took a lot of effort to build. The function of the structures is the biggest mystery. Some scientists believe they were burial cairns, elaborate graves created by Neolithic humans. The best guess researchers have right now is that Neolithic people living near the shoreline built these elaborate burial cairns at the very edge of a much smaller lake that existed thousands of years ago. Then, as the lake filled with water, the cairns were submerged and the prehistoric villages were lost. Archaeologist Urs Leusinger believes the cairns were constructed with the help of many villages. He believes the scale of these structures suggests that many different communities worked together to build them, but he still can't say why. However, Leusinger and his team have considered several possibilities. If the piles of stones weren't used for burials, they may have been part of artificial islands or fishing platforms. They could have been border fortifications or even cultic structures used in the celebration of solstices. It's all quite confusing, but very exciting for the archaeologists studying these underwater structures. Number 5. Alien goldfish. There is a strange, extinct creature from the sea that has been boggling scientists for years. It's been dubbed the alien goldfish, and it's weird because it had no backbone, no hole for excreting waste, no eyes, and no shell. Jean-Bernard Caron from the Royal Ontario Museum calls the mystery creature an orphan in the tree of life. Since it was first discovered, experts have failed to place the creature in any known category of animal. In other words, the alien goldfish has absolutely no place on the tree of life and no evolutionary relatives. At least, that's what scientists thought. Scientists with the University of Cambridge in England recently identified a weird, toothy structure in the gut of the animal. This suggests it could have been a type of mollusk, using a unique apparatus in its gut to feed. The structure was missed by researchers before because it's only about 4 millimeters long. Yet for being so tiny, the miniature apparatus contains 2 rows of 20 triangular teeth. This undersea mystery monster is not alive today, but lived about 330 million years ago. Its remains were found in Montana in the 1960s. Even with the mysterious toothy structure identified, scientists aren't convinced the alien goldfish was really a mollusk. They think it could have been a creature all its own that evolved independently of all other animals to have its own special features. Number 4. The Titanic blip. The HMS Titanic is currently sitting in 2 pieces at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. That's a depth of about 13,000 feet. 26 years ago, veteran submersible pilot P.H. Nargiole picked up a mysterious blip on echo-sounding equipment. This was in 1996. The blip was never identified. Nobody could ever figure out what the mysterious object picked up in the sounding equipment could be. Some thought it was another shipwreck. Some claimed it was nothing but a big rock. But nobody knew the truth. Not until now. The mystery of the Titanic blip has finally been solved, but it isn't quite as exciting as many people had hoped. Instead of discovering a second wreck beside the Titanic, divers have uncovered a rocky reef made from ancient volcanic formations. The reef is home to lobsters, mysterious deep-sea fish, and coral thousands of years old. Murray Roberts from the University of Edinburgh called it biologically fascinating, and even more amazing than a shipwreck. What do you think? Agree or disagree? Let me know in the comments below. Number 3. Mysterious extinct clam. In November of 2018, marine researcher Jeff Goddard was looking for slugs at California's Naples Point when something strange caught his eye. He noticed 2 small clams with translucent skin in shallow water. These clams turned out to be living fossils, creatures thought to have been extinct for the last 30,000 years. The clams are not very big. Their shells measure only about 10 millimeters, and they are so tiny that it's almost impossible to find them. Researchers did manage to grab some samples and bring them back to their lab. When the scientists began comparing the newly discovered clams with ancient fossil records, they were shocked to make a direct match to fossils from 28,000 years ago, described in 1937. In other words, these clams, which are still alive right now, were thought to be extinct. Until now, nobody had ever found a living specimen, only ancient fossils. Number 2. Roman shipwreck. Underwater archaeologists came across a Roman ship near the coast of Croatia. Professionals working with the International Center for Underwater Archaeology identified the wreckage in 2021 after finding pieces of wood and old Roman coins. The coins were minted during the rule of Emperor Constantine about 2,000 years ago. After the discovery of the wood and the coins, a full-scale underwater survey was conducted. Researchers exposed over 24 feet of the ship's sunken hull buried in the sand, right at the edge of what was once the Roman port of Barbier. The ruins of Barbier were discovered in 1973. It was a major trading hub built around the 1st century AD. Preliminary tests on the sunken ship show that it was built around the same time. It may have sunk shortly after the construction of the ports in Barbier, though nobody can say why. Unfortunately, we know almost nothing about the ship except that it was active during the Roman period. Some samples have been sent to France, and the team is hoping to return in 2023 and search for more clues. Maybe they'll even find some sunken Roman treasure. Number 1. Ancient Wisconsin. Archaeologists have discovered yet another ancient canoe submerged in a Wisconsin lake. Researchers with the Wisconsin Historical Society, along with the Wisconsin's Native Nations, recovered a very old canoe in Lake Mendota. It was the second one they found in less than a year. First, they found an ancient canoe crafted 1,200 years ago, and now they have found one 3,000 years old. The second canoe is now the oldest example of such a piece of technology in the Great Lakes region. The canoe itself is a marvelous piece of ancient engineering. It was carved from a single chunk of white oak and is almost 15 feet long. It was also discovered within just 100 yards of the first canoe, which was made 1,800 years earlier. That proves that for nearly 2,000 years, native people lived on the edge of Lake Mendota. In fact, researchers are fairly certain that somewhere underneath the surface is a submerged village. People obviously lived in the same spot here for a long time, and so there must have been a great city or a humble settlement. Since it's never been found, chances are its ruins are somewhere beneath the lake. Marlon White Eagle of the Ho-Chunk Nation says the canoe is proof that native people occupied the Great Lakes region for millennia. He says their ancestors were part of a highly advanced society that practiced widespread trade and commerce. Thanks for watching! Which of these amazing underwater discoveries did you find the most fascinating? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. See you soon! Bye!